A very good morning to you. I'm Tammy Ngubeni. This is the South African Morning. Now, our focus of the day here on eNCA today is the state of the rail networks. Now, that state has been derailed with very little hope of getting back on track. There's been a spate of high-level resignations at Transnet. We've seen that happening. The Group CEO and the CFO have been shunted, as well as the head of Freight Rail. Now, the failure of the network is not good news for the economy that is slowly chugging along. Now, eNCA's reporter Pule Letshwiti-Jones is looking into this issue, and he joins us now. Pule, a very good morning to you. Tell us exactly where it is, where you are at today, and why you are there.
Yeah, definitely. I'm outside City Deep, Transnet port as well, where we usually see some of the cargoes, of course, being brought here in trucks, transporting goods as well. Transnet remains a very key, crucial state-on enterprise, particularly for the economy of South Africa. But of course, with the state parastatal being challenged, it becomes quite difficult to pump in a lot of money into the economy as well. We've seen the challenges it's facing in terms of delayed goods that are supposed to be transported as well. But of course, from a leadership perspective as well, there's been quite enormous challenges. Like you've rightfully said, we've seen the CEO and the CFO just recently resigning and stepping down from Transnet as well. But coupled with that, we've seen how the entity has been muddied by a lot of controversial issues, such as one where we see the SIU taking to courts to have several dodgy contracts declared unlawful at the state-owned company. The contracts are valued at over 56 million rand, but also Transnet is one which has extensively appeared at the state capture as well. In one of the reports as well, the Chief Justice Zondo saying that there was state capture that occurred at Transnet. But of course, to get more insight as to what happens next for Transnet, I'm speaking to Mesela Nkobentlapo, the Chief Executive Officer at ARIA, African Rail Industry. Mesela, thank you very much for joining me this morning and making time for us on eNCA. So I think the biggest question is, we've seen the two executives, top executives, now stepping down. What next for Transnet?
In terms of talent, there is plenty talent at Transnet, so I am not worried about the leadership question. Particularly looking at the acting CEO of TFR, he is a proper railway man through and through. So the leadership is not in question at the moment, but I think that operations is the way we are concerned with, and the state of the infrastructure.
When you look at the state of the infrastructure, is there hope for the state parastatal, particularly looking at how the railway network has been challenged, having a knock-on effect on the operations as well?
There is hope. We as South Africans and with railway men and women, we don't stop. We only take a rest, but let's use this opportunity to reflect and allow operations people to do their work and not to interfere in their work. And most importantly, to listen to operations people, because I think that's where the solution lies for Transnet. And it's quite important as well that we know the true state of the problem, the infrastructure, which should be made available to at least the NLCC to know how much is required to fix the infrastructure.
What would you say has derailed Transnet thus far, particularly looking at the challenges it has incurred over the past decade as well?
Look, and the past decade, we have obviously done in diagnostic, and one of the most important ones is the maintenance of the infrastructure. The vandalism did not help as well. When you look at the maintenance, we had estimated that over a period of 10 years, and there has been a significant reduction in maintenance. Then we need to go back and reinvest in maintenance, but the financial industry can only reinvest in such in fixing the infrastructure only if they know what they're getting themselves to. And hence it's important for the TQI, the track quality index, to be made available to the NLCC, and I think that is a safe space for Transnet to be able to come out transparently and share that information with the NLCC.
And also there's been an issue around, as you can see in the background as well, trucks, right? We know that there's over 3,500 trucks per day, carrying mined products across the nation's roads, more than double such traffic from 2020, according to the Minerals Council of South Africa. Does that raise concerns over what will happen to the truck owners in the wake of, lower commodity prices as rail operations improve?
The railways are a tree of life for any economy, and for any economy that wants to accelerate growth. The trucks are always needed. The last mile is always required, but there are goods that are supposed to be on the railroads. And the most important part about the railroads is that it will reduce congestions in small towns. It will reduce the number of accidents, horrible accidents that we've seen in the likes of Pongola. It will remove the decongestion that we see on the roads. If you look at Richards Bay, and I hope that we go to Richards Bay and do a live interview there so that the South Africans can see and the huge impact of not having operational railways, what it means. But look at the rail industry is not a threat to the trucking industry. We complement each other. And recently we have had a number of trucking companies that are looking to go to diversify their businesses, going into rail as an opportunity for them. And that is based on the national rail policy recently passed by government.
Economists say the underperformance of Transnet is placing about 68% of the country's GDP at risk. With Transnet having so many challenges, does this pose a risk to the economy of South Africa?
Oh, absolutely. It poses a huge risk. And Professor Jan Havenga had said about it costs the economy about 40 billion a year. So we cannot afford that. And we don't see it. We talk about Transnet, but we'll start seeing it when that bread doesn't arrive because the raw material has not been transported on time. So we need to create a picture where the South Africans can understand the impact of a Transnet that is not at its peak. We need to go back to the 2017, 2018 era where we used to transport 228 odds of million tons per annum. And we have estimated as ARIA that with the immediate implementation of third-party access, we're looking at bringing about 58 million tons per annum of freight onto the railways. Now, when do we start? We should start now. And I will appeal to the President that we don't have to wait. If we want to save this economy, if we want to bring in private sector to help to accelerate the growth that we need desperately as a country, we should and must bring in the private sector. Now, often we get asked who's private sector. Private sector could be the PIC that will bring in, would fund the rail infrastructure. Why are we not having a railway fund? From the PIC perspective, now it's time that everybody in South Africa, media, the bankers, those that have money, to see the railways as the lifeblood of the country. And most importantly, when we look at the job creation, but we need to talk about sustaining jobs as well. You can create jobs that are not you can't keep them for a long time. Right. We need to have a lot of certainty when it comes to job creation. So we call on labor, we call on government, all social partners to work with the railway industry, to work with ARIA, to work with Transnet to ensure that we get the freight back on rail. And one of the things that is going to be key in the future of Transnet is to have a CEO that will be able to transition Transnet from a monopoly into now a player that will be able to compete with other operators in the industry.
Thank you very much. Of course, that was Mesela Akope Nhlapo from the African rail industry joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Pule, for that. That's Pule Letshwiti-Jones out in City Deep today. We will be focusing on the issue of the railroads throughout the course of this morning. So do expect more reports from him and more interviews as we integrate this, or rather as we continue looking at this particular issue.